Hello, everybody. It's almost August 6th, and you know what that means. Andy Warhol's 91st birthday is just a few weeks away. Andy Warhol is special in the art world because of the fact that, until his death in 1987, he was among the ever-shrinking elite of the art world and warranted inclusion in conversations with all the masters of the past, like Leonardo da Vinci and Pablo Picasso and all the rest. Warhol's death signaled the end of an epoch of great artists having huge impact on the world around us. With his birthday approaching, here are things people can do to honor the memory of Andy Warhol. Number one is to listen to the Velvet Underground. Andy Warhol's influence stretches beyond visual art. In 1967, he produced an album that would change rock music forever. The Velvet Underground and Nico only sold about 30,000 copies when it was first released, but it's said that every person who bought that album went out and started a band, and since then the album became recognized as one of the greatest ever. Lou Reed and John Cale created something special that Andy Warhol helped expose to the masses through his Exploding Plastic Inevitable series of shows. Number 2. Eat a banana. Wikipedia has a section on the album cover in its entry for the Velvet Underground and Nico. It explains that in the original release, you could peel back the yellow banana sticker to reveal a flesh-colored banana on the vinyl sleeve. But there's no explanation for why a banana was featured on the album cover in the first place. Andy Warhol's dead, as is Lou Reed. Maybe John Cale knows why this image was chosen for the album. Regardless, the banana has become a symbol of both the Velvet Underground and Andy Warhol. Number 3. Save room for Campbell soup. Andy Warhol's most famous work is his 1962 series of paintings of Campbell soup cans. What most people may not know is that it's actually 32 different paintings, each one of a different variety of Campbell soup. This work was huge in the early 60s, and it signified the arrival of the pop art movement. People tend to assume that the art world is opposed to entities like government and corporations. In the Wikipedia entry for Campbell's soup cans, it says that Warhol had a positive view of ordinary culture and felt that abstract expressionists, the kind of artists who tend to be most vocal about their disdain for government and corporations, had taken great pains to ignore the splendor of modernity. This is an encyclopedic way of saying that Warhol had an appreciation for the past, and painting simple subjects like soup cans, while it infuriated other artists and critics, was a way of appreciating our history. Number 4. Wear a skull on top of your head. There's a famous photo of Andy Warhol with a skull on top of his head. That photo is almost more famous than the series of paintings that inspired it. In 1977, Warhol did a series of paintings of human skulls based on a photograph of a skull taken by one of his assistants, Ronnie Cotrone. There are several theories about the meaning of these paintings, one being that it's a reference to when Warhol was shot in 1968. Others say that Warhol's view was that to paint the skull was to paint a portrait of everybody in the world. And there are some who say Andy was making a commentary about death. In his book, The Philosophy of Andy Warhol, Andy replied to that third view, writing, "I don't believe in it, death, because you're not around to know that it's happened. I can't say anything about it because I'm not prepared for it." Number 5, go to church. It's infuriating for some and just hard to believe for others, but Andy Warhol was a practicing Catholic. He was private about his religious beliefs. Nonetheless, the priest at Warhol's church, St. Vincent Ferrer, says he observed Warhol kneeling in prayer almost daily. Andy Warhol also volunteered at different homeless shelters around New York City during the busier times of the year. Warhol's faith inspired his art, too, as details of Renaissance paintings and his own portrayal of the Last Supper are just some of the Christian-themed works that Andy Warhol created. Number 6. Watch wrestling. You may not know it, but Andy Warhol was a wrestling fan, and video footage exists of Andy being interviewed by Mean Gene Okerlund at the War to Settle the Score, a World Wrestling Federation special that was aired on MTV in 1985. He can also be seen in the crowd on the WWF videotape Country Boys, which was an 80s Coliseum video release about the wrestlers Hillbilly Jim and Uncle Elmer, of all people. It's been said that Warhol always wanted to do a painting of Hulk Hogan. For all of the Andy Warhol fans who are wrestling fans, like myself, it's a tragedy that we never got that painting. Number 7. Shoot an 8-hour video. One of Andy Warhol's oddest film projects was Empire, an 8-hour video of the Empire State Building in 1964. The film was shot at 16 frames per second and depicts the building from about 7 in the evening until 3 in the morning. People assume that this movie was made just for the sake of being weird, but it's more likely that this was just some weird way of celebrating the Empire State Building. According to the Wikipedia entry for Empire, in 1964, floodlights were installed on the top 30 floors of the building in connection with the 1964 World's Fair. This began the modern tradition of the Empire State Building celebrating holidays and other occasions by shining different colored lights at night. And finally, number 8, paint. Andy Warhol was a fantastic artist with a creative mind who lived in a very complex time in American history. He's an artist who's still misunderstood. He painted soup cans to make commentary about history. He painted skulls to express ideas about death. You don't need to film an 8-hour video of a building or talk to God on a rotary telephone to be able to make an impact. You can take a video of somebody you love or just paint the world around you. These are just some of the ways we could celebrate the life of Andy Warhol on his 91st birthday on August 6th, 2019.